Be patient. This march to an all-time high will happen and will be brought to you by big government. Why this bastard of capitalism wants Uncle Sam to keep doling out the cash. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And take away the cash for clunkers, they really couldn't sell the cars. The credits for home buyers, they couldn't find the home buyers. Ben Bernanke even hints he's taken away the fix. Markets are just in a fix. Comes back just days later, hints he's not taking away the fix. Markets are on a tear. You see a pattern here? It's all about big government driving all of this buying here. It's true. I bet you a Benjamin. This latest rally is all, well, Ben Bernanke. He says he's going to keep providing stimulus. These guys are sufficiently stimulated. And have you ever met a banker to turn down a rescue for himself? Or an insurance giant, a giant handout for his firm? Of course not. Laissez-faire can only take you so far. And so far, any hint of cutting back on goodies only cuts back on the buyers. So celebrate this record assault on stocks. I just think it's a matter of when, not if. Even if it seems we're assaulting logic. We are all big government advocates now, whether we like it or not. Because don't look now, but the way the street is going, Uncle Sam is a buy. No wonder Charles is feeling the pain. He loves a rally as much as the next guy. He just doesn't flip over the trigger coming, well, from these guys. And Sabrina Schaeffer and Steve Moore share his angst. Charles, you sound like a party pooper, but I kind of see where you're coming from. Explain.
Well, you know, there's two things. There's certainly the Fed part of this rally, which I think a lot of people are getting, you know, listen, the banks have gotten flushed. A lot of people have gotten flushed. The housing market's coming back. The stock market's coming back. There's another part of this story that is legit, though, with these corporate earnings, and it's the international growth, the global growth. If you look at the stocks that have done extraordinarily well this week, Priceline, Joy Global, Monster.com, Chicago Bridge and Iron. After the bell today, Deckers. Domestic sales were down 2%. International sales up 16%. So I think people watching have to understand, there's not a direct correlation between the stock market and the U.S. economy for sure, and what's lacking there, the Fed is making up.
You know, Sabrina, what worries me about the larger picture, those examples notwithstanding, Charles very nicely delineated, every time I see a hint of Ben Bernanke pulling back, they sell off. Every time I hear a hint that he's back in and relaxed, they're buying like crazy. And I'm reminded of all the federal rescue programs that they might bemoan and say as an end to capitalism as we know it. They didn't have a problem, of course, when the same was done for them, but they get the heebie-jeebies. It's like over just the course of the last 5 or 6 years, we've all become indentured servants to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, no, so often I think we believe that government is here as a check on big business, but more and more we're finding that big government and big business are really best friends, and it's concerning. And look, you know, $4 billion poured into cash for clunkers is a drop in the hat. Look at our investments in green energy. This is where I'm really concerned when we see the president is literally handing out, you know, handouts to his political supporters, and these are failed industries, failed businesses, instead of allowing the market to direct resources where they really belong.
You know, you think about it, though, Steve, if you allowed the market to decide the fate of a lot of these green initiatives, they'd be gone. And what has happened to define their success and their survival is, well, if they can't cut it on their own, we'll prop them up to see if that'll do the trick. And I think it's now become into the DNA of Wall Street.
You don't understand. You know, profitability is right around the corner.
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right.
That's been the argument for 30 years.
Just a big corner,
right?
that's all.
Just wait one more year. Give us a little more of that. But let me say this. You know, I'm a little mystified by how well the market has done over the last few months. I think everything government is doing is pretty bearish. But, you know, the lesson I've learned in 25 years in this business is never bet against the American economy and never bet against the American entrepreneur. I mean, the fact that they can make money in this kind of environment is really a tribute to American ingenuity, that they find ways.
But with the exceptions of some of the names and others that Charles mentioned, isn't a lot of this still, by and large, driven by cost cutting? And when the numbers don't meet, then they cut more. Even Wall Street giants that have been making a lot of money hand over fist and enjoying this market ride, they've been laying off thousands over the last couple of weeks.
Well, but you know, look, it's a tribute, I think, to to business in America and corporate America. You look at their balance sheets today, they're pretty pristine. I mean, they have become really lean. They've become very efficient. They've gotten rid of a lot of the leverage. And what I see when I look at that,
have to grow, Steve.
But look, they become more profitable, and when they do, then they start rehiring workers. But what hasn't happened is exactly the kind of leanness and efficiency in government. They can't even cut $80 billion out of a $3.6 trillion budget.
That's another thing.
Here's the thing, though, Neil. What you're describing, this corporate welfare mentality. By the way, the fiscal cliff bill was chock full of corporate welfare.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
It actually comes back to haunt you. It haunts our economy. This is why, listen, a Caterpillar can sell 70% of its things outside of this country. Today, Chicago Bridge and Iron said we've got a gigantic deal, Mozambique. The problem, though, is that to all the freebies from the federal government and the Federal Reserve has made companies in America sloppy, flaccid, and there's no rush for them to go out and do the right thing or take.
And there's always the expectation, Sabrina, maybe you could touch on this, that, look, even if we run into a buzzsaw, the government's got our back. And that does give you a cushion of cockiness, right?
Right. Well, and it's, you never know which side you're going to be on. Are you going to be on the side of the winners or on the losers? And government is constantly picking them.
I'm on the side of America, young lady.
Right.
I have no idea what that means, but that's.
Well, if government is in the business of picking winners and losers, then at best we're looking at scandal and corruption problems, and at worst
but Sabrina,
we're looking
the
at
markets are marching ahead. See, and I guess, and I'm not one to bemoan a parade, but I remember, Charles, when we hit the October highs in 2007, we were months away from one of the worst meltdowns we'd ever experienced. So I think we're like lemmings kind of just being led into something that we might regret.
I don't disagree with you 100%, but I will tell you that we're not at that point, that point where everyone was just so enthusiastic and the market, as some sort of great oracle, certainly fell as 1 month before the Great Recession started. But having said that, think about some of these businesses that the government is propping up. What's the worst performing stock this week? It might be First Solar. We had the automobile companies up there. They're losing market share. I'd rather own Toyota or Honda stock than I would General Motors. So it's so interesting. Even where they're pouring all of this money, you see the negative impact, because when you get used to not having to hustle, not having to compete, you become non-competitive.
Charles, you want to know the irony of the Obama presidency. Here we have probably the greenest president America has ever had, who's in the hip pocket of the environmental group.
Do you mean that literally, or do you mean that? No.
What is saving his presidency? What industry has created the most jobs and had the highest increase in their stocks? Well, fossil fuels, which he hates. I mean, that's pretty ironic, isn't it? But that just shows that American industry can grow no matter how many body blows government throws at it.
Well, Sabrina?
But I mean, ultimately, if we're sort of propping up the economy through quantitative easing and through backroom deals like this, I mean, I don't think that we're really on a sustainable path. And ultimately, we need to recognize that we have a debt that's climbing towards $17 trillion. We're borrowing 40 cents of every dollar. We're not on a sustainable fiscal path that's healthy for this nation. So even if we're having a sort of a momentary boom, I think that we can only be very cautiously optimistic.
Everyone's going to listen to this and say, oh, Neil, he's whining about this, just like he was whining about the bank bailouts under Bush, and Steve Moore, to his credit at the time, was as well. One of the things I always feel in the middle of a euphoria is stepping back and looking at what's going on. The point I want to real quickly, Charles, raise with you is if companies are feeling so confident about their future and where they're going, why are so many of them either buying back a lot of stock,
right,
or they're just buying a way to go private, or they're merging?
Right.
They're not, in other words, creating vast new businesses. If you're a Comcast, you're just buying out the rest of NBC you don't already own. In other words, you're not seeking out vast new vistas. You're just trying to shore up your own ship. There's a tale of two worlds. They are not doing that stuff in America. You're right. 70 companies, $100 billion in buybacks instead of putting it into new plants and new hiring. But that's a story of America, an anti-business agenda that's scaring these businesses off.
Right.
But around the world, they are doing
it. But that's why I argue, Steve Moore, don't get used to these market highs, or don't get used to this notion that it'll keep going. If the smartest guys in the rooms, in these boardrooms, are putting the money they're making to this type of enterprise and not expanding and not really creating more jobs, then that doesn't telegraph a long-lasting bull market to me. I'd love to be wrong, but history suggests that that's not how bull markets ensue.
That is true, but I'm going to be the optimist, if I may. And I'm going to say this. Look, I think the reason the American economy is doing fairly well, it's not doing, great, but it's the least rotten apple in the world,
Well, you're right about that. The tallest pygmy in the room. Yeah, I hear it.
For the moment.
Yeah, for the moment, Sabrina. Very good. Very good way to end that. Guys, thank you very much. In the meantime, if Washington spending is indeed propping the markets up, now it's got a tax plan